first 12 years of what now is 37 years of conducting was 90% symphonic in career-wise. The mix was 90% symphony, 10% opera. It was because of a certain group of factors that happened. My going to Europe after the Oakland Symphony, which I was music director of, went bankrupt, not because of anything that I did. It was already, unfortunately, in that way when I became music director of it. I had won a competition was a finalist in a competition in England, in London, with the BBC, and had recently picked up management there, and so started to base out of different European cities and conduct a lot there. After that, I came back to the States, and in 2 years I had career debuts with Chicago LYRIC, Canadian Opera, Los Angeles, Washington, and Miami. And in 3 years I was all of a sudden considered an opera conductor, not a symphonic conductor. And even though I continued guest conducting, certainly a lot in Europe, and occasionally where it was up for music directorships with orchestras, the career has just kind of evolved, whereas now it's the flip side. It's 90% opera and 10% symphony. It's the gig you get, so I have to go the way the work goes.
Tell me about your connections in Austin. At one time you had one title, now you have another one, and yet you conduct virtually all the operas that the company does. How has that relationship evolved over the years?
Well, it's twofold. I first came here, I was asked to come here as artistic director, and was here for 4 years in that role through also the period of growth of developing, helping fundraise in the community and building the Long Center, which is a wonderful theater for our community. It was during that time the structure that the organization had been, the administrative structure, was not necessarily serving all of the interests of all involved. And I had been very clear that I was still going to be guest conducting around, and that I would come to Austin, I would give them a certain amount of time. But they felt that they wanted a type of personality in a position that would give them more time. So then they restructured it, and they went back to a one-headed monster instead of a two-headed monster, and hired Kevin Patterson as general director. Kevin and I had known each other in the business for quite a long time, and he asked me, I had already changed my title to principal conductor, and he asked me to stay on, and that's how I've stayed on this past 4 years. Now, with regard to my conducting the majority of the repertoire, it's been 60% of the time I've only done 2/3 of the operas. And then there was a request, if I had the time available, for me to take on and do more of the productions, and so I have done that the past 2 years, and I'm planning to do that next year in terms of the repertoire. But it's not a set in stone type of thing, because to be honest, I think the orchestra and the community and the audience needs to occasionally have someone else in the pit to hear a difference, and as there always will be. Also, I think certain specific type of repertoire would not be right for me to conduct. So far, I haven't been put in that position, and I feel good about the work that we've done here.
I can't imagine what wouldn't be right for you. Looking over your resume, it's virtually a list of all the operas that anyone could think of. It's incredible.
Well, thank you. There's always more to learn, and actually Kevin's doing his darndest to get me to learn new repertoire. I would say, though, for example, when the company does any of the major Baroque works, which is a lack, or it's not a situation. Until we moved in the Long Center, we were never really in a theater that would have benefited from trying to do a Baroque opera. But when we do one, I think it would be best to bring in a specialist, especially if we use and want to use early instrumentation and this type of thing. Other pieces in the past, actually, I've been asked for other companies to do pieces that I just don't feel resonate with me, and I think as a musician you have to be honest with yourself and others. Sure, there's a paycheck, but it's not the reason why we do it.
terms of your role in Austin, you're called principal conductor.
Correct.
And as you've explained, you conduct most, but not all of the operas the Austin Lyric Opera does. But what else is involved in being the principal conductor? Do you have a say in choosing the repertoire, in casting, for example? Just give us some sense of what's involved in your work.
I think the strength of the position is one that shares some public situations for the company with Kevin, that when he wishes to have advice and input with regard to singers, directors, productions, pieces, but he is the decider. You know, he's the George Bush of the situation. He's the person that makes the decision. In terms of running the orchestra, we have a music administrator, and I do advise on that because I've had a lot of experience in that. I do most of the auditions for the orchestra. Our orchestra is a separate orchestra than the Austin Symphony. There are similar musicians, maybe 55%, but it's still our own orchestra, and they're very proud of themselves, that they should be, because they've become a very good opera orchestra, which requires something different from an orchestra than being a symphonic one. I think that when we are talking about repertoire, when Kevin, you know, is throwing out ideas, I act as a sounding board, a consigliere, I guess you could say, but there's less specific decision on my hat, on my shoulders. And it was more fair to the organization, which is, I think, why we decided to go this way. My wife and I had already moved here, so we have a house here, so I use this now as a home base, and Austin's airport